I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everybody. Riley, if you could give us a roll call, and what I'll do is I'll speak of the missing person. That's at the end of that.
Do you want me to announce them?
Yeah, please just.
Okay. Andrus? Here. Lehman?
Here.
Underwood?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Gilman?
Here, and Kevin has gone on to bigger and better things. So we will be seeing a replacement for him probably within a couple of months when the county gives us a new person. So we will be without him. And that also, I'm going to mention now that Joe Underwood has offered to take the position to work with the Peninsula folks. So he'll be working with Alan and you guys, Dana. And that would be, I think that'd be good. That brings us to our item number 3. We do have a blue sheet. It's an addition that we will put under action item F. That is contractor work for the Great Lakes Central Railroad, and that is work that's outside the scope of the work, roundabout work itself.
No, it's within the scope. They just didn't tell us that there would be additional work that they would have to have their contractor do on the grade crossing coming off the roundabout going into the soccer park.
Okay, we'll talk about that when we get there. I don't know. With that, does anybody else have anything they'd like to add to the agenda? I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented with the inclusion of the blue sheet.
Support. We have motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? We have an agenda. Okay, does anyone have any conflict of interest in any of the items presented to us tonight?
No.
Nope. All right, that moves us to our next item. Public comment. Kylie?
Any person may make an advanced appointment with the board regarding road commission topics for a regular or special meeting in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. If an appointment is made, the topic will be an agenda item. The following applies to public comments. Please state his or her name and address. Topic must be relevant to the road commission. Individuals are allowed to speak once for up to 3 minutes on a single topic, which may be extended by the chair. A group addressing the board requires a designated spokesperson who may speak up to 10 minutes. The board will not act on any item from the public that is not on the agenda.
And if you are here to speak during the hearing, you can hang on. We're going to let you speak and say your mind at that time. Other than that, any other items on the agenda? If you have any public comment, if anybody would like to step up and speak right now, it'd be a good time. Seeing nobody jumping, we will move to the next item, which is our action items. Item A, which is our appointments. This is the public hearing on the driveway, the specific driveway access per our new policy on Bannister Road. I call this hearing to order, and let's see. The hearing is now open. If we could, anybody like to speak on this subject? We have the podium here. This is whether you oppose it or you support it or.
Sure. Ron Savate, 1537 Bannister Road. I don't know all the particulars of what exactly is going on Bannister Road. So maybe if it could be explained to us what you are the owner or you are proposing, maybe we could comment intelligently on it.
Well, I'll try to get them up to speed.
Okay.
All right. The folks at the end of the road, the road commission has a stub there. The
Right.
Rebnells, okay, but the Rebnells would like to utilize that space for a driveway into their property.
Right.
Okay. Previously, the road commission policy and procedure did not allow that unless certain modifications were made. We changed the rules so to allow for the possibility of that. They held a hearing and changed the rules countywide. Okay, what this hearing is for is specifically to allow the folks in the development itself to have a say whether or not they think that they want this to go through, because it does affect whether or not the road commission can ever take over that particular part of the road. And in this case, once that driveway is built, we're not building a turnaround or anything, so there's no way that we can service the roads, for example, winter-wise in the future, whereas potentially we could in the past if the roads are turned over to us. Does that sound?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the right of way, there is currently a strip of land, which is not right of way. It is owned by the road commission and as such is not intended originally for the use of road traffic. But this then would allow the board, after the hearing, to determine whether or not they decide they wish to make the drive accessible to that, across that actual owned piece of land, not right of way.
So knowing that, is there anybody who would like to say anything? Okay,
And so, no, and so what options does the owner have? What are his options? He'd have to make a cul-de-sac, or he could take his driveway right off the end of it? What are his options?
the options prior to our rule change was they could be responsible for the cul-de-sac.
Okay,
It would be at their expense.
at first.
Yes. And that would allow for the future development or future inclusion of the road into our road system.
All right. And so, and the only way we would get plowing for that road is if we had a cul-de-sac there,
That is
for the county to plow it.
That is correct.
And so, and if our subdivision wanted a cul-de-sac there,
Once this,
it would have to be purchased land from Justin, put in a cul-de-sac, and then you would maintain our road.
that would probably be the way that it would go.
Which would be quite expensive probably. I'm just curious. Okay, just looking at options here.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
There's a lot of people here that don't know our story. I'm Justin Rebnell. We own that 20 acres at the end of Bannister Road. And our intention is to build a single family house for my wife and my daughter. Small hobby farm. No dividing of the property, none of that. We have intends to be good neighbors to everybody. And if this cul-de-sac does come in, it's only going to affect the other two houses that are on the south stub of Bannister. It's not going to affect the north stub. They're still not going to follow the north stub.
Right.
So to have us lose our property and the amount of money it would cost to make this cul-de-sac seems egregious to me, to put it on one family's burden. And that's our plan. We don't have any other plans other than that.
For reference, the cul-de-sac is well over $100,000. So
How much?
well over $100,000.
Right.
And including and losing the property.
Yeah.
And so,
You
that's-
have the inverse.
right. And so all we're trying to do is one single driveway for one single house.
So I guess if this is important, I know my name is Christy Simon. I live in Great Traverse County. At 11566 Richardson Road, and I am in favor of a driveway for the Rubno property. That's been in my family for 80 years. That particular lot belonged to my grandfather. And unfortunately, I think there was an oversight with designing that Fisher's Run subdivision where the cul-de-sac was overlooked, but I don't feel that, like Justin said, it's their cost to bear. And I love that this property's gonna stay in the family. We don't get any more dirt in this world. We only get what we have. So I'm in favor of them having a driveway.
Thank you.
Okay, Yeah, you can either, yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
My name is Scott Funes. I live at 2711 West Long Lake Road. I have my whole life. Half of that time, I've been a police officer for Grand Traverse County, and never have we had any traffic issues on Fisher's Run or the other stub road down there, Bannister Drive, as far as I know. If you were to drive in Fisher's Run and then turn and go both little spurs on Bannister, there are 36 homes in there. And if there was an error, it was done on the County Road Commission back when the plan came in to build that property. If they needed cul-de-sacs, they should have went in then. And then it would have served all 36 of them. But I think because they have been successful in everybody using the property and everybody's been able to get the snow removed and whatever else they needed in the, probably the 20 years that the sub has been there, to put the cost on one family to give up that kind of land and then put the cul-de-sac in, it just doesn't seem fair at all. And when I was up there today, if they were to put a cul-de-sac in, all of a sudden there's gonna be this wide open area that nobody's gonna use. And I think it's actually gonna take away from the value of the property by putting a cul-de-sac in. And I wish there was maybe other people here from the sub that would look at that, but all of a sudden, instead of those beautiful oak trees, it's gonna be gone. So I would respectfully ask that the commissioners here grant the request as early as tonight and get that, so they can get this house underway. And quite honestly, if there isn't a decision tonight, my advice to the Rebnell family would be to petition the circuit court and try to get them to make a decision so we can get it going. It's been delayed, I think, long enough.
Scott, did you say you
Thank you.
live in this subdivision, or you live outside of the
I live
subdivision?
at 27, like I said, 2711 West Long Lake Road, just down the road. Anything else? Well, thank you.
Anyone else?
We do have one letter that needs to be addressed too.
I just want to make sure we have, everybody's had a chance to speak before we, okay, we have one letter, go ahead.
Okay, this one is to the Grand Traverse County Road Commissioners. In response to your letter of May 6, 2022, my wife and I would be opposed to the application for a driveway permit for vacant land abutting the south end of Bannister Road, parcel ID 2808-029-01100, located in Long Lake Township. We do not believe that this request should supersede our Article 6, Section 16B of our condominium bylaws contained in the Fisher's Run Master Deed. Sincerely, Charles and Helen Tork, 10,062 Fisher's Run, Traverse City, Michigan.
Can somebody map them and tell me whether they're on the south spur or the north spur?
They're not,
They're not.
they're off the Fisher's Run, not Bannister.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
My name is Marvin Clark. I live at 10151 North Long Lake Road, which is just around the corner from Wheelock's Bowling Shop. The party, the Rubnell property originally belonged to my mother and father. I'm 73 years old, and I can't put a definitive date to when my parents purchased the property. I know my dad had a couple other parcels up there that were landlocked by the state, but the state gave them an easement. And this property here had an easement as long as there was a landfill on the state property between their property and Fisher Road. Why the access to that landfill made it accessible for us at my young age to cut oak firewood up there. So we harvested the wood up there for 3 years. So that maybe doesn't have anything to pertain to this here, but other than the lineage of the property. And I just have a couple of things that everything I'm going to say has probably already been reiterated by other people. I had to put a subdivision in on a piece of property that I wanted to develop on Richardson Road, which was on the undeveloped part of Richardson Road. But the Long Lake Township Board required that it be built to county specs. And I was told before we ever put the road in, that the county would not be expected to maintain the road because it was an undeveloped part of Richardson, which probably will never be fully developed for county road. And so we had to bear the cost of building the road to the county specs with a cul-de-sac at the end of it. And drain commissioner had we had to put in the ditching and the basins, you know, for the water runoff and stuff, so it was built to them specs. So I know you can have a county road built to specs, that it's not actually a county road. And until tonight, when I realized that you guys actually, the subdivision did not actually road right of way going up to the Justin Revenue property. I didn't realize that you guys had a 20 or 30-foot piece of property in there that was never added to the right of way. And somehow the words have been put on paper that you guys got a deed signed by the developer that gives you permission to have control over that piece, that 20 feet or something between the end of the paved road and Justin and Sandra's property. So with that in mind, it changed a little bit of how I was going to prepare a few notes here. And because I was actually of the mind to say that I think in my mind that it's possible that when you go in Fisher's Run, make the left on Bannister, I'm not concerned about to the right, to the north, but to the south, that it is a county-built specificated road, but you guys do not maintain it. You do not follow it. And as far as I know, they've never been told that there's any maintenance have been done on it or anything. And so I just wanted to ask if somebody could really just tell me how they really, you guys consider that it is actually a official county road.
It's a private road.
Oh, it's a public road.
Okay, but it's,
But that stretch of land is not a public road.
Right.
That is the same thing as effectively as a privately owned section of land. So the right of way ends where that parcel stops.
When did you guys acquire that piece of property?
That was deeded to us in the Fisher's Run site.
Yes, when it was all filed.
Yes. So there are three stubs that exist within the sub or within that development that are all owned by the road commission, but they are not right of way. There's a big difference. Like this is property owned by the road commission, but it's not a right.
What the right of way means and that. So I guess that's the only point I wanted to make, is I had a concern whether or not it was actually even considered a county road, because I don't maintain, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself, but the fact that you guys managed to acquire that property and you have control over it.
but what the stub, and I do understand that what the stub is there for is for future improvement or future extension if that were to happen with the development. And we have a standard that allowed for that, and we have a standard now that allows for it too.
Okay.
It's just different now that essentially what we've done is we've changed it so that under certain circumstances we can legally pass it off after a hearing.
Right.
For example, if there's no objection to the people, for example, in the immediate neighborhood who, under their contract or the way that they understand their.
Well, in my mind, the way I look at it is that I think when that plan was accepted by the township and the county, that there was some future ideas that maybe that road would be, proceed on to 20 acres in a cul-de-sac and development or whatever, but that's not the case. And so I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you.
You want to clarify, this is a single family driveway.
Right.
So if they change the use of the property other than a single house family access, then the old rules come back to play. where there has to be a turnaround, there has to be improvements. Just to clarify, this is a very specific, single family access to that parcel of property.
Makes sense.
But we had to change the rules countywide, so we were standardized, so.
My name is Sandra Rathmel. I currently live at 718 West Blue Star Drive in Garfield. But Justin is my husband. By no stretch of the imagination, I have thought about this driveway permit every single day since January 28th. And I am sure that nobody else in this room can say that. Yes, and if you hadn't thought of it, I'm sure I would remind you. I just want to clarify something that I don't think has been brought to fruition. This is a special circumstance. As you know, this has been in our family for a long time, but our land is currently landlocked. And so without this driveway, if we were to look at a cul-de-sac, we are one family. I believe it was in 2019, a quote for a cul-de-sac of that nature was well over $100,000, and we all know that prices don't go down. So the price of the cul-de-sac would actually be more than the value of our property. That would essentially leave us dead in the water. So we are in a position where, quite frankly, we're one family. We're not developers. We cannot afford that. And not only that, but the option to sell that and develop that property would mean all the more cars, all the more neighbors, the woods would be gone. We're looking to have one home with a hobby farm. My daughter is 21 months old. I want her to be able to walk to Westwoods Elementary. I want her to be able to sell eggs to neighbors. That is my family dream, and that is our forever home. So that is all I'm asking everybody in this room to take consideration for tonight, is that this has been a long and stressful road. And I'm just very hopeful that we can have this driveway permit, because had we any other way to access the property, we would have done it already. Thank you very much.
Anybody?
If I may, my name is Daniel Barr. I live on Fisher's Run, and I think what's being advanced here is a reasonable request, and as a member of that HOA, I would certainly support Justin and this request.
Should I have a blue card or something?
Holly, did you get his address?
I missed the address.
I don't think he said it. That's
Okay.
10215 Fisher's Run. I still like a blue card.
Anyone else?
I have one more question. And so I'm not against a driveway, trust me, don't get me wrong. I was hoping that maybe still plan. That's not the question. But and so there's no plans to split the 20 acres.
No,
So this is just
For us.
just for you guys.
Ron, I forget, what road were you on?
I'm on Bannister,
You're on Bannister.
1537 Bannister. Just 2 houses away.
You're actually on our same stuff, correct?
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I'd like to just add one more thing, is that I don't know how you guys work with Longley Township that are involved with it too. I understand that they have a say in it too, but to me, for the Longley Township, it would be a win-win situation, because another house in a hobby farm up there would increase their tax roll, and that's would be, to me, a win-win situation for the township. I don't know why they would be in favor of maybe not having that house built up there.
All right.
Shelley Glazier, 4157 Stone Ridge Drive. Obviously, I am definitely in favor of this. It's has been this property's been in my family for, I know it's been over 80 years. And I certainly, I guess I'm concerned and question why the cul-de-sac wasn't made to be put in originally. Because I'm not for sure why it wasn't important then, but now someone thinks it's important now.
I can answer that.
Okay.
It's expensive. And the developers develop what they have. And if they were to build it, they would have had to take space out of their development.
So, okay.
So it's not.
So that's the that is a cost of doing business, Mr. Developer. But you think it's fair to burden a private owner $100,000 plus take away his property? That doesn't seem, and who actually is gonna use it? Nobody.
But it's not up to, it's not the developer's responsibility to worry about whether their neighbors have access or not. I mean, you have to understand, there was an easement. There's an easement on another border of the property, and it just needs to be found.
Actually, that went dormant. It is not usable after 2016.
I don't think that's true. I don't think they can take it away. I don't think they can take that legally away.
I can show you the paperwork. It was written right in the paper.
All right, anyhow.
Anyways,
So
I just,
that's your answer. Right?
yeah, okay, well, that's the answer, but I,
Can I also, I'll let you know, we have this all over. And the problem, you say, okay, why didn't they make this? The idea was never necessarily for it to be a cul-de-sac. The idea was the next people that buy that 20 acres are going to make a through road that goes out to the next major road as they continue the development going down. So if you look right now, for example, up in Long Lake Township, where they're building all these new developments up off of 72 and that, we're allowing these stubs because the next person that's going to buy the next chunk of land is going to continue on with these continuous roads.
well, you
So
assume
the-
that, right? You assume that they're going to develop it. They're telling you they are not gonna develop it.
But that's why it was never enforced on a previous development, is because we are looking to see what is going to happen. And it was part of the agreement, and that is why when the board back in the time did accept these, it was because they had the access that they needed to each individual property. But it was clearly stated in the agreement with them that no snow plowing would occur unless a turnaround was built. And that is the reason why these things are the way they are. We have many, many, many of these throughout the county where there is no snow plow because our plows are too big to get in. They can't get in and turn around. So without that, the idea was then the next development would continue on and we continue on, and we then would be able to add snow plowing to that by having another development there.
So I don't know if this is a fair question. Is there, so far, there's only been one person who was against it? Is that a fair statement?
I've talked to two others that were,
But they
they are not here, so it doesn't.
So that, I guess that doesn't count, right?
No,
Well,
it's just from they did not send anything in anyway.
all right, let's
Okay.
get it. So does anybody else have anything else? Are the Twerks here at all? Okay. Let's close the hearing and bring it back to the board.
I think we beat this to death, and I made a motion a few months ago that I thought we should just grant them an exception and give them a driveway permit. Instead, we went this other way, and we have that was not acted on. We didn't have it. Nobody else liked that idea.
Thank you for thinking.
So we made it, we had some discussion, we sent it to the lawyers. We have a policy that allows us to do this now. And I'm making a motion that we grant the Revnells their single family driveway permit.
Okay. Other commentary before we go forward? Vote.
Well, my only concern is not knowing from this letter what these people said was in the docs that dictates that. So not knowing that, I can't support this until I know what this, from this letter, what these folks want.
All right. We're in the discussion stage, right? I think they should have made that known to us if it were really.
They quoted the thing, so they told us what was there. We have to have those legal documents. So that's my piece.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Kylie, roll call,
You
please.
read Kevin yet, or? can I
I'm
do
sorry?
this work? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Kevin's no longer with us.
Leland,
Yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Brown,
Nope.
Gilman.
No. Motion fails. Move on to our,
Are we allowed to ask why it failed
because the,
after 19 weeks?
okay, as a technical matter, it failed because the tie on a motion fails. I can't go through the entire process, how it went down.
So they're gonna walk out of here without a driveway permit because 19 weeks ago, this homeowner association agreement.
I'm gonna
Okay, may I,
bring this back to the board. I think we get.
could I just ask a question? Could I just
Public
ask a question?
comments. We have public comment at the later part of the meeting. We have an appointment right now, Janice Russell. Janice, if you could, please. Janice is concerned that we have a problem with some maintenance on the roads that has been performed by, all right. So
I'm not, my name's Janice Russell. I live at 1288 Autumn Trail, Carver City. And I've lived there for several years. And I lived there and it's made possible by this wonderful gentleman sitting here, Gary Smith, who keeps Brown Trail, Cants, and Autumn Trail clear in the winter and not a washboard in the summertime for the residents that live there. 2 years ago, he was told he shouldn't do that anymore because we have one resident out of, I think there's 32 of us, that he didn't like. He's got a personal issue with Gary and he did, so therefore he went to the road commission and said, I don't think he should be able to use his private vehicles on the road. So we came in October of 2019, before you, I did with Gary, and I took a survey of all the residents. And I submitted all of their signatures except for 4, I think, that I couldn't find because it was winter time and they'd already left because it's a lot of summer homes there. They're all supported Gary, and I can do the survey again if need be. I did bring all of their signatures from 2019. So Gary keeps the road wonderfully. Your people, your maintenance people even compliment him on it. He's been told that somebody on Autumn Trail complained. Well, I brought George Foster here, who owns all of Autumn Trail, except for the small part of Autumn Trail that I own. And we didn't complain. So that didn't happen. Gary's been told that he's been stopped by the police and told him that he has to get off the road. That has also never happened. Never. And I'll let Gary address that if you want to talk to him directly. So we need Gary to, I have never had to, with my artificial shoulder and 2 artificial knees, get out and dig out my mailbox. I've never had to not get out of my driveway. This gentleman does everything. Autumn Trail, Brownwood Trail, and Cants Road would be impassable. It's a tertiary road. The only road that y'all plow is Cants, and we're not exactly high on your priority list. So if we need to get out for a hospital or a doctor run.
Sometimes we can't.
Yeah, we're not, yeah, well, of course, we're not, but.
That was bad. That was bad.
We always get to with Gary.
All right.
What you required of him 2 years ago was for him to get insurance, which he did, and he still has today. And name you as an additional insured, which he has, and which he maintains today. So we have all the residents except one guy who hates him, for other reasons that we don't need to discuss, complain constantly. I know that he does it every week. And we do not stand for one guy holding the rest of us hostage and impact how we live on those roads. Because believe me, our Autumn Trail is that wide. You know, my car is this wide. I mean, I need Gary or I wouldn't get out.
Autumn Trail is not a county road?
It is a seasonal road.
Seasonal, okay,
But
okay.
it cuts across George's property and my property, which I bought from George.
Actually, Autumn Trail is a county road to an extent, and then.
Then it changes seasonal,
Yeah.
okay.
Could I ask Gary, has anybody stopped you and asked you, what are you doing? I mean, either from the road commission or you say the police haven't talked to you?
No, well, Monday, May 2nd, it was in the afternoon, about 2 o'clock. A gentleman named Rick showed up and he had a red Grand Traverse County truck that says Waymaster on it.
Yeah.
Okay, and he comes to my house and I was gonna let him in, but he said, no, come on out. This isn't a good meeting. He says, I need to have you stop and desist. And I said, why? He said, well, there was a complaint. And he said, a person up there, which I was kind of thinking up there would have meant Auto Trail. It could have been up on the little seasonal part, which would have been Ed.
But the guy who doesn't like
lighting. And the complaint was apparently that I had dug 2 holes in the road. Somehow with my grading, and there was a hazard to them. There were 2 holes, sinkholes, after the frost went out. There were 2 holes. I called the road commission and said, can you come out and bring me some gravel to fill these in? And I waited. Well, my neighbor next to me has a little sports car and he bottomed out, and then he come to my house and said, can you fill these in for us? Yes, I can. So I did. I grabbed some extra gravel from around the edges, because of course in the winter it gets pushed out. I always bring it back in anyway, so I filled the holes. The next day, the road commission road grader shows up. Okay, now he's got his blade and he's digging the sand and gravel back into the road. And he commented to me, I stopped him. I said, I filled this yesterday. He said, yeah, you did a nice job. You got the right crown. Everything looks good. Okay, but I fixed it. I definitely didn't dig the holes. I mean, I spent my own time. I don't charge nobody. I've spent over $1,000 just in.
I pay him a strawberry jam.
Right, she does. My wife buys all the diesel fuel for me.
I mean, we're a little people.
So the thing that concerns me is I have 2 neighbors that live next door. One of them, both of them are very sick. One's in a wheelchair. They have the need on occasion for ambulances. I maintain the road so we could, because they've been there probably 3 times already this year. And they have supplies that come in. I always have UPS and, FedEx bringing supplies to them. And I maintain the road.
Okay.
The road commission, man, I've stopped talking to them lots of times. They used to use names John, but it's passed on since then. But he would come in, and when I pushed the snow back, 2 times this last year, he put the little side scraper down and pushed it out and made it farther, which was awesome. Because then of course, I can clean up. Everybody likes my work.
Okay. So,
except Ray.
Well, yeah, and so here's what we were informed of, just so we're all on the same page here. We were informed that there was a problem. We did research and we found out that, yes, somebody was privately maintaining a section of road. As a seasonal road, they have every right, because we do not perform snow removal. They have every right to do snow removal on that seasonal road. The problem is the state police were called and they said they addressed the issue. They said they went out there and they talked to somebody about it. And they said they cannot be on a public accessible road unless the equipment meets the standards or is owned by a municipality. And so that is where we were. And the fact is, I mean, I don't know who they talked to. I don't know when this was, but I know we have made contact with them, and that is where the complaint was registered to the state police, and they were dealing.
Hold on, let's keep it back here for right now. Okay. And before I go, does anybody,
Well, they're jogging my memory, because I vaguely remember when you guys came in originally, and we did.
Several years ago.
Yeah,
It was 2 years ago. in October.
I keep thinking back, and and I do remember the deal with the insurance and that, the liability side of it. And yep.
I've got the permit.
Yep, oh yeah, yep.
And I've got the insurance.
Yeah, I
for $1 million.
Right.
And the police have never talked to him.
Yeah, well, unless that's Rick. If Rick is the guy who came out.
No, Rick had talked to the state police that they were the ones who then passed it on to us that someone was out there. And they passed it on to him about this.
And then Rick came to talk to me.
I think we have a way to deal with this. I mean, honestly, the state police they're gonna honor whatever we say in all likelihood if we say it. If we say, look, we have assigned, he has insurance and we have an agreement with him to maintain that road. Honestly, I just can't see why we can't just have Rick, just let Rick know that if the police talk to him again, he can explain that to them, that
I have permission.
we have permission, that he has permission from the road commission. And he's carrying insurance, and he has our blessing.
Can we write him a letter saying that?
Well, he's got permit. That's as good as a letter.
And gotta show that to the state police officer.
Yeah, if they show up, keep that with you. I mean, keep it in the mailbox or something. Yeah, the tractor.
But they didn't show up.
Yeah, and I don't know.
They may have shown up and talked to somebody else on site.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to defend them, but they may have talked to somebody, who knows who or what, but.
Believe me, his wife had told him.
But then the trickle down came to Rick at that point, so.
The only thing that we're concerned about, and one of the reasons why you carry insurance, is that if it damages the road bad.
I understand that. Or take out somebody's car.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. But you've fulfilled your end of the agreement.
Yes. That's why I was caught unaware.
Do we need to take action on this? I mean, it just.
State Police or Motor Carrier Division, were they questioning the equipment that was on the road?
My understanding is they said that the equipment that is being used is not considered road maintenance equipment. And unless it's owned by a municipality, the type of equipment being used, or.
Can you get an ORV sticker for it? I wonder. I just wonder, because
that's the key.
Because on
They're
seasonal
saying it's
roads,
not
you
a
can run those
roadworthy
ORVs,
And we have the authority to use a non-roadworthy vehicle in the maintenance, but we can't even allow Elmer's to use a non-roadworthy.
I'm gonna ask a question, but I'm sure I already know the answer though. Do you have a beacon on your?
I have flashing lights. I have four in the front and in the back.
That was so,
so.
We're caught in the melee.
I'm
Oh, yeah, I've got a Kubota tractor.
Sure.
The rules that the carrier division applies to vehicles that maintain vehicles. So that's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing this is a motor carrier division.
Once in a while, you have somebody who really wants to stick to a specific set of rules. Remember Trooper Brown?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, if we're gonna do this, then we need to get them on board too.
Yeah.
Because there's really very little we can do if they come out and they want to enforce something that is in the law that says, okay, it's not allowed no matter what.
Yeah.
We have to get
that would
something.
supersede us.
Yes.
That's where I'm at here.
We know you've fulfilled your part of the bargain.
I think at this point, unless they come and they tell you to get your equipment off the road, it's, I don't think we should be taking any action to get you off the road. You've already satisfied our requirements.
Right.
That's me. Does anybody else on the board?
Would it behoove us to reach out to, I'm assuming it's the motor carrier division,
I would assume.
and chat with them, or we open up a can of worms?
See, that's,
If they haven't talked to him yet, I think at this point we would let it lie.
Okay.
And if they do talk to you, you call us and then we'll talk to
and
them.
then
and
at
see what
that
he's
point,
at.
then anybody that's, we have a thing about pushing snow across roads and all this other stuff. Those people are in violation also.
I don't know.
I'm not saying.
But it happens all the time.
But it happens all the time.
But not at the end of the road, there is a large circle. I wouldn't call it a cul-de-sac, but that's where the road grader needs to turn around.
Sure.
If I don't clean that out, he can't turn around. Okay, there's a couple driveways there, which I do clean. And there's also, I clear a space for him. So when he comes down the road, he can pull into that space, back up into Kansas Road, the non-county road, and then make it back out. He's saying me so many times. And to the extent that I shouldn't say this, he dumps me a little salt so I can put it down the hill, but it's really slippery. Hey, it's.
So we have one,
Great.
we have one resident.
Nice relations.
Yeah.
All right. Can we
didn't get a take.
I think as a consensus, I think as a consensus,
I got no problem.
we'll just,
no problem with us.
and Brad, could you just?
I will pass it
Thank you.
along. We will take care of it.
All right.
Thank you for coming.
We will be I won't see
Keep
anybody
up the
until
good work.
Tuesday, but you know.
I have a road that needs a little work.
As long as you're volunteering your time.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, big strawberry jam.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Our next appointment, Bill.
Here.
Appreciate your patience, Bill.
Not a problem.
Ask for a raise. Hear good news.
More jam, more jam, more jam. Or maybe grape too.
Got it.
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I cleared the room. Look at that. Are you happy for me?
Okay, well, to bring back old traditions, I brought back this map. Just so you know what I'm talking about, in case you forgot. We're in the final stages of the Pell. As you know, we've distributed it to the draft report, a complete report with appendices to MDOT, the Federal Highway Administration, and to yourselves. I'm here. I brought Todd along in case there are any detailed questions, to answer any questions that the board has, and as well as to give you an update on what we've heard so far. We, as I said, we distributed it to MDOT and to Federal Highway Administration. The MDOT person has distributed it internally to specialists and other. And we've got 4 basic comments from MDOT and from Federal Highways, and they're very easy to deal with. Simple ones. One person didn't even see that we called it a locally acceptable alternative. He said, why don't you show that somewhere? Well, there it is, right there. It's in the report. We had some questions about threatened and endangered species. They just needed to know where we found that data. The historic aspect of it needs to be either explained that we're going to go do more detail in the next phase, or what we have now. The Federal Highway Administration has just given it to their area engineer and their planner, and they haven't heard back yet. So that's basically all the comments we've heard. We did hear from the, I forgot Dana's title, but she's Dana Renke with the Federal Highway Administration, commended the report, said it's very complete and well and easy to follow and well documented. So we did get some kudos from Federal Highway. So moving to the next phase, we got some guidance from them on how to wrap this up, and we're intending on answering all the questions we get, most likely next week. Hopefully we'll get in if you have any questions.
Start building next year, right?
Well, yeah, sure. He says with optimism. It's going to be a while. We've got to get through the NEPA phase, and then you got to design the thing, and then you got to find the money. Good luck with that, but we'll help you with that. You know, that's part of our.
That's a lot of strawberry jam.
Yeah. Are there any questions?
My directions to the staff, I could not open it because this piece of junk does not have Word.
Yeah, we don't have any Word document or anything.
And I'd have to transfer it somewhere else. I didn't want to transfer it.
Can we download an app or something that'll let us free read it or something?
Wasn't it a PDF?
But it was in PDF in Word form.
I use my computer.
And I've had,
for me.
I use my iPhone and.
Will these things support LibreOffice?
I don't know what LibreOffice is.
It's basically free Word.
Okay.
And then we don't have to spend money on it.
I can print it.
Well, we
Or you can
Nice.
Yeah, how about
You read it before the meeting.
Yeah.
I was busy.
I use my computer at home, so I just
Got it a couple days ago. I would like something that I can open those documents.
How do we?
Let me know. We'll get it figured out.
We just did.
Yeah.
We're good.
I did read the whole thing through, very detailed. You know, if me not knowing if you missed something or not, it looked like you had pretty well all your bases covered that I could see as far as locations and impacts and all the interaction with the public and that. I mean, it was very, very detailed. And like I said, me not knowing if you missed something, I have no idea, but.
Mind, this is Pell, and Pell is pre-NEPA. We still have to go through the NEPA process from the beginning. We've been saying this is this is a process.
Yeah.
We have to follow the process, and I know, Jason, I know is a little frustrated by that, but it is a process, and you're gonna need some federal bucks. So we have
So
to
late
follow the
next
federal
year.
process.
But it looked to me like you guys, yeah, very thorough and easy to follow to read through it. It was,
And thanks,
So-
Todd is the primary author of this.
all right, well, it looked, for who you presented it to, I'm sure they were quite happy with it, I'm sure.
Todd is Smith, I read.
Well, I'll work with Larry to get you whatever you need.
I think we gave it to you in Word because you can then track changes easier, but PDF would be just, just before it comes out to us.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
I don't have a blue card. Do I need one? I'm just kidding.
You got a blue shirt.
Is there
That-
anything
Your blue
else?
shirt's good enough.
Is there anything else?
Just looking forward to continued advancement. I'm still blown away, by the way, at the small impact of the big bridge, I mean,
It's
Just
very
a-
minimal. What was it? It was.
It's just an acre.
It's an
Yeah.
acre.
And that includes, just around the piers.
Yeah.
Around the
Right, yeah.
piers, that stuff. But there is, you have to understand that you'll have to have a access road because you're going to have to maintain it. And we can't let trees grow in that access road. Most
Like-
of the
like the
area
bridge in
will
the jungle.
regrow. Huh?
Like the bridge in the jungle in South America.
Right, yeah, you can't maintain a bridge like this from above,
Yeah.
I don't think so. So we're gonna minimize the impact, the permanent impact by maximizing the span, hopefully. And that's the goal. If I could even guess what kind of bridge this is, I might be, if you look at the Zilwaukee Bridge, you won't have as many piers, but
But that type.
that type
Right.
of bridge. And
Well,
the Zilwaukee is the only one of its type in Michigan.
Yeah.
So we're almost breaking ground.
Yeah, well, when they first,
Yeah, they didn't quite like.
but
it.
this is a signature bridge. So-
Yeah, you keep saying that, Jason. I hope, that,
Well,
will you allow me to sign it once we build it?
You can sign it anywhere
You
you
said
want.
signature bridge. I figured that's what you meant.
Well, I think the impact, I don't know how you could get less impact than that. I mean, for what.
You have to have some piers. You can't span 2,200 feet without a pier,
Right.
without the over dam type of bridge, and I don't think that's something that's feasible.
No, all right, very good.
Good.
Nothing
Thanks,
else?
Bill.
All right, you're very welcome.
All right, that moves us to our
Would you grab my
last appointment.
Dan waited us out.
Yep. All right. He's used to the return. This guy looks forward to his county life. I think the sprinklers.
Oh, the bank.
Wayne, would you grab that? Thought we'd have more to update because we were gonna have a meeting here at 6 o'clock with volunteer team, but that didn't happen. The township canceled it. I don't know if everyone's aware, but they hired Gordy Fraser and Associates to do some work on this engineering costs or some reconstruction costs. That report wasn't available yet, and they weren't available to attend the meeting tonight, so that's the reason that meeting didn't happen. Another update for our HOAs, we're still kind of waiting for that gate to go in. I talked to Brad earlier, it's going to be some progress to be made on that soon, so we're getting into that the summer months. The one thing I would just highlight was the volunteer team. Is I feel like based on what the content of what GEI's input was in this week's manager's report about commenting on lowering the road. That idea of lowering the height of Bluff Road during the reconstruction, if it's reconstructed in the same area, was actually proposed by Ian Sitz, who used to be with GEI. And so it looks like GEI commented on it, but they're not at the meeting. So they're not hearing firsthand what's going on or what's being proposed. And I mentioned this to Brad tonight. I think that moving forward, a couple of things I'd like to ask that you consider is involving GEI with the volunteer team instead of it being this disjointed kind of effort where we have a battle of engineers. We have Wayne as part of our group, but I think if we had the meetings here and we could Microsoft team in Carlin from GEI and just always hold the meetings here so she could, tune in remotely
and hear firsthand what's going on and what's being discussed, and then that way we have better communication. I think that would be.
I think this room would be a lot better for.
Be more fruitful for everybody, and we wouldn't have confusion of where we're meeting like we did last time with people going different directions.
Times, different.
So that's one thing I would just ask, and then the other thing is where do we stand with GEI as far as finishing the phase 2 and 3? I was just hoping that we could have some discussion on what they still had some do outs, and so that we want to make sure that melds into what the township's looking at. We're not duplicating effort or getting involved in it.
And I know they are very close. They have a couple of little things, but they actually did want to hear back from the other people involved to make sure that we're all on the same page. I think we need to schedule the meeting before our next board meeting. We can't do it the same day because that doesn't give time then for the engineers to respond to comments before we come to the board as a whole. So it'd be nice if we could potentially get something done earlier than June so that we can finish it and get all the information back, and they can work in conjunction with the township engineers and Wayne and try and find it. If we are looking at potentially lowering it or whatever, then we have a better idea of how that construction cost can flow out.
But I like here. I did not like driving out there and having half the people not know where it was. Dan was there on time and I was there. And there was not very well. We all stood around. We met here, and everybody got the same thing. But yet people don't take notes or don't listen. And there was, we didn't have an itinerary, which I think we should have elected Dan our chairperson at the time, and made it formal. And he could be the whip on this if he's still willing. We haven't gotten very far. We've only in 60 days we've spun around once, and they're paying. Winslow Township is paying Gordy Fraser, and basically she went out there and met with the Elmer's guys and said, "What do you think we ought to do?" Well, if we just need the Elmer's guys, why do we have to have Gordy Fraser? They wanted somebody with some practical construction experience. It was the same as our roundabouts. We designed these roundabouts and this traffic safety routing this long. And then the Elmer's guy said, "No, that's not the way to do it. Why don't you just do this?" And we accepted that. So why don't we just ask them what to do, and that's what we'll do. I really think we're kind of crazy, relying so much on somebody's suggestions. The township wants their engineer to lead it, and they're just asking their engineer is acting a contractor for ideas.
One more thing I'll point out, since that meeting that kind of was disjointed, Andy Spitz proposed a different route for the road, basically shifting it over to the outer edge of the road right away. And I don't know if it
creates inner edge. You mean
yeah,
towards
the inner
the
edge,
hill.
more towards the west. So I think most of the road would still be in the right of way, but it might tweak in and out. We haven't had a hard look at that yet because it was just sent out by email after the meeting. But it kind of goes back to getting Wayne. Well, where Wayne went, he ducked out. But getting Wayne's there, but getting GEI and Andy and if Gordy Fraser's Associates is going to be continuing to be involved, getting them all in the same room and let the engineers talk collectively instead of it being, one opinion here, then one response there. I just think it's not going to be very productive.
So where we're at, Rob is currently the chair. Is he not?
No, we don't have a chair.
You don't have a chair. You need a chair. Okay. So you're the chair.
Can you be the chair?
You're the chair.
Our working
okay. You're the chair, and you can set up your agenda and pursue it. You've persisted, and you've been here every meeting for 2 years now, at least.
Yeah.
2 years now.
Been a lot.
And it's not as if you're not letting it go by without doing your work, and we appreciate that. And you're gonna have Joe on the team now. And between Joe and Alan and the rest of your team, and if you, when you're here, if you get the technical help, do your Microsoft Teams thing here and maybe get somebody, so we're not paying, nobody's paying top dollar to have the experts online.
Right, we don't need Carlin to drive here,
Yeah,
but you want her involved. That's the
Yeah,
idea.
I think, and if that requires an authorization for additional, hour of work, or whatever.
That was
Yeah.
within scope for
Yeah.
me, so I'll take care of that. So-
Great.
Thanks.
All right, Chair.
All right. You good?
And when you do, I mean, as much lead time to get that person involved to make sure that your schedule will work, 'cause I know everybody's busy, but.
Just when you do it, just copy Kylie. Also, she'll make sure that this room gets then reserved for everybody and gets it set up for the way you need it.
And I appreciated the notice, Kylie, this morning where because I had structured my day around getting here early, and when it disappeared, then
Go change your.
I had stuff to do, and I didn't need to sit here an hour,
Right.
15 minutes earlier, so.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, moves us to our action item D, the consent calendar.
The consent calendar is used to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together without discussion. Requests by any person present to remove any item from the consent calendar for full discussion as an agenda item are automatically respected. The action noted in parentheses for all items remaining on the consent calendar are approved by single commission action adopting the consent calendar. The manager recommends the following items be adopted. 1, minutes. 2, payroll. 3, accounts payable. 4, financial reports. And 5, reports and communications.
All right, would anybody on the board wish to have anything removed from the consent calendar? We'll get there.
Okay, all right, sorry.
No. Okay, no. Now, anybody in the public?
Yes. Just on the minutes for the regular meeting of April 28th.
Already.
Just had one point of addition for the record on that. I gave the board a letter outlining the access issues and also a kind of a 2-page memo responding to some of the GEI observations of our shoreline work. And I'd asked those to be included in the record. I guess they were omitted, so I just asked those to be included in the record.
They are covered under reports and communications, so that they are filed with permanent record under this item.
Okay, all right. Was that good?
Yeah, I just didn't see them online, so I didn't know, because for the public to be able to see it.
Right, it'll be filed now with, under reports and communications, it'll be in the record permanently for this project.
Okay.
All right, anybody else? Seeing none other, I will motion to approve. Alan? Support. And Carl. All right. Roll call, please.
Underwood,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Gilman.
Yes.
That brings us to item D, engineering reimbursement form 2044. Wayne?
So that's a standard reimbursement form. The Grand Traverse County Road Commission retains a licensed public engineer, professional engineer. I fit that designation for you, and so this is through Act 51, our reimbursement of $10,000.
I would entertain a motion to approve this.
So be it.
Second, Carl and Joe. All righty. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Right. Authorized to sign that, and Carl signed, so. Okay, item E, mast arm foundation repair, Barnes Road. We got a broken light mast.
Yeah, so this project was already under construction. Contractors were not actively working in that area, but they had already poured the support for the mast arm. As we went through the winter months, someone failed to negotiate the intersection, went through the intersection and encountered our base there. The base itself didn't look like it really sustained any damage, but one anchor bolt was severely bent over, others were tweaked as well. And in order to properly make sure that this foundation and those anchor bolts meet future specs and specs to construct this.
We don't need someone falling on the car.
Yeah, we reached out to the designers on this, asked them their opinions on it. Their recommendations come back of, we need to chip all the way down, pull those anchor bolts out, put new anchor bolts in and re-pour that, the top part of that base.
This is a pass through to their insurance, to the, it's an insurance claim, so it's a reimbursement, so.
Motion to accept or authorize the mast arm foundation repair.
Alan?
Your turn, Joe.
And Joe. All right, roll call please.
Brown.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes.
Gilman.
Yes. Okay, brings us to item F, contract award.
So as we went through the design process and all of our communications with the state of Michigan, who's the actual owner of the railway there, and then the leasee, Great Lakes Central, we had all kinds of conversations, discussions, and requirements for building the road across through there. They did not indicate that there would be additional work that only their people would be able to do until here after we've approved the plans and we've gone out bid. They sent us this proposal that a contractor their choosing would perform this work. So we have you have a proposal, I believe, in front of you. There's no other further discussion or explanation or design work that they're indicating how and what they're going to do. But their lump sum total is $134,011.23. I'm not a fan of this. I think it's a railroad robbery, but they've got mobilization at over $35,000 in there. $91,000 to construct the new crossing, and we still have to do the asphalting on out across that.
Was any of this accounted for in the whole bid process with Elmer's? And like, for example, we had to expect that certain work was going to be done, but all of a sudden now we have to use a specific contractor to accommodate MDOT.
To accommodate MDOT in the railroad, correct. Right, which that was not, they did not indicate that through all of our discussions. So MDOT had told us that we had to have this kind of a section as we come up to the grade and this much asphalt and this much between the rails of asphalt on that. They didn't indicate that there was going to be this additional work, that they would have to come in and pull the ties out and do something else and put new ties in underneath on that.
I don't know, Joe.
Well, I've worked on construction jobs, and anytime you deal with the railroad people, open up your wallet, because they do the same thing.
Right, but
Number
we,
one, they'll
but we
have,
paid a professional engineer and company to design this.
And they work with MDOT.
And they work with MDOT, so I feel it's their mission. I will definitely vote no on this. Just another taxpayer ripoff.
it is.
So don't let us get ripped off, Carl.
Well, okay, Alan. Okay, Alan. Let's not make this personal.
It's
All
not-
right.
it's-
Okay, let me say my piece and don't cut me off. All right? Okay? Let me finish. Like I said, the railroad is extremely difficult to work with, and what Wayne has told us is this came after everything and they had been talked to. And they drop this stuff on you, and that's how they operate. I know that's how they operate. I've been there. If you work in the right of way, you have to pay a guy to stand there all day long, even when there isn't a train ever coming, at an exorbitant fee, and there's no way to get around. That's how the railroads work. I don't agree with it. I don't like it, but that's the reality of it.
Michigan law is written very specific that railroads have the right of way. Railroads were here first. And I know that's because I was involved in the recodification in the early nineties, and I have right there. It sucks that it didn't tell us beforehand, but I'm not surprised.
I'm not either.
What you said.
Not either. I've been there.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we authorize $134,011.23 plus or minus for the railroad crossing. Do I want to include the additional flagger, or do we just want to worry about that?
If we make that as a option, whether the contractor, which we've not received that information back yet, if they do not get certified with the railroad, then there would be an expected $9,000 additional fee for the flaggers.
How would I put that into the motion? Anybody?
Ask for the higher amount. Just put it in.
Yeah, more or less.
So you'd be 9 on top of
With the
30,
possible
34, so you're gonna
additional
be
of 9,
43, 143 more or less.
143 more or less. For the Keystone Cast Road roundabout, railroad crossing.
And just, I mean, just as a side note too, you can see the proposal to the state of Michigan from this company didn't even come in until May 3rd. Which is, yes, unfortunate, and that's the way they are on everything. So,
I'll support.
Okay, so we have a motion and support. I do have a couple of questions. If we didn't approve this, you just don't build that part of the roundabout? Is that how that would work?
Well, yes, so we would not be able to meet them, and so we would have to omit that leg, so we would have to have some redesign done in order to take that work out and change orders with the contractor.
Which involves more cost.
There would be some additional design costs in order to be set in the grade for the.
That might or might not be offset by not building the extension
Right.
into the, basically what is the soccer fields.
Correct.
What's the political? I mean, I mean, if we said, no way, or it didn't pass, say, for example, for on a tie. If this motion didn't pass, what's the political ramifications to your best of your estimates? I mean, we're gonna have a bunch of MDOT people ticked off at us.
I don't think we'll have anyone at MDOT ticked off at us. I believe Elmer's, is a very solid company. They understand these things. I don't think there'd be any repercussions with Team Elmer's. I believe that the park would be disappointed because I think they see the safety value added to this. But if we recall, Commissioner Mauser, former Commissioner Mauser, was a member of the Parks and Rec, and so he had a lot of dealings with them. And so they had came and Commissioner Mauser had asked us to look at having a leg off this roundabout into the soccer field.
We had to invoke Bill. All right.
So how much engineering if we don't do it? That's one question. Is it gonna affect us moving forward with this project here in another
3 days?
3 days, 4 days, 3 or 4 days? So this is basically for Parks and Rec is what we're doing this for, this 100.
For Parks and Rec and for the normal traveling public on Keystone Road for the safety and
To
for
let them into the soccer
for
field.
the
Is that
capacity, because when they have those large events, it requires police there to direct traffic. And so the entire Keystone corridor does become very effective and becomes very clogged up during those times that they have those events.
The idea with this roundabout, remember, is that roundabout becomes the way in and out, and the north in and out goes away.
Okay.
So you're directing all the traffic.
So we're eliminating the north one.
Right.
Off of Cass or off of Keystone.
Yes, the existing opening right would be eliminated.
Eventually there'll be one on Firmway, but not right away.
Right. So
this is only replacing that entry. I mean, the northern.
We're eliminating it, and then this is gonna be, this will be the in and out, is that correct?
That's
The in
correct.
and out.
We had made a request to MDOT to allow us to consider for a limited time to keep the existing there gated for emergency personnel as a secondary entrance, and that, a time limit could be put onto it even. And we were just simply told, no.
They don't like that on their track to and from the same property.
Like I said, you can't deal with those folks. I mean, that's their way or the highway, but.
To open the roundabout, you have to close the other, because that's the way the law is set up, trust me.
The leg off the roundabout.
The leg.
The leg off the roundabout will replace the one to the north. And that's how you can go across the railroad tracks. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to go across the railroad tracks. You gotta give them, you gotta take one if you're gonna put one in, you gotta take one out.
Do we have a set of plans here that we can throw out
So-
in front of us? 3 seconds.
So we're putting one in, we gotta take one out. So if we don't put one in, we leave the other one. And they can't deny us that access.
It's already there, yeah.
Correct.
It's already there.
Right, there's already an existing one.
It just, T-Bays want to participate?
Hey, Carl, I want to say I wasn't disrespectful of your opinion. I was thought that not Wayne in the design process that OHM should have, and I like those guys, they're
Anticipated.
They should have anticipated, maybe we should have had a budget for something, this is expensive.
It is, I
This is the
agree.
Taxpayers' money.
It is,
was
I
not-
agree.
And this is just another, okay, well, it's just $130,000 of public money, who cares?
$130,000, right.
If you've ever been over there on a Saturday and a Sunday.
I have.
It's nuts.
Especially last weekend. It's crazy. And a roundabout will help us manage that traffic better. I got some other things coming, come on Keystone that I want to find out about, but, the way they do it now, I mean, you're stopping traffic with a cop. You let people in, you let people out. This theoretically should make the flow much better.
What about getting them all out on Burnley? Not having it.
That's an engineering question, because that's quite a.
You bring them out on
Right.
Brimley, but then they're gonna wanna turn and go south on Keystone, where the roundabout allows them to go either way.
Right, not a stop.
And then go north or south on the roundabout.
I know.
Brimley, they're gonna come out to the intersection and have to
Turn.
And Burnley is not exactly a great place to come out on to
With the
begin,
hill.
because you can't see all that well going there. Eventually, they were, eventually talking about putting a secondary access point there, but that doesn't even necessarily mean that they're gonna want to use it for these big events. It may be something, as parents are coming in for practice or whatever, but I don't think they want to have that type of traffic flow. I know, I've been through there on Saturdays, that they have big events. It's crazy. And the parking that's
Well,
there is also.
We control as far as if they ever brought anything off onto Brimley, we control the access out.
Correct.
So I mean, if it's one of those, right turn, buddy, that's the way it is. That's where you're.
Well, I think about how we talk
Yeah,
to people, the
yeah.
guy on 3 or 4 mile.
Yeah.
Who had to give up on his development
Right.
because
Yeah.
we told him he can't do this.
Right.
With his property. Now, because this is important, it's a soccer field, okay, we'll spend another $130,000, it's okay.
Well, I think in the wash, it's gonna be the difference is gonna wind up being a little less because we do have the associated engineer. And I appreciate, by the way, Wayne, that you have indicated you are displeased with this as well. Trust me, that means something to me. And because this is displeasing to all of us, no matter which way we vote on it. And I'm, again, I love OHM and some of what they do, but sometimes I just go, could have just said, in the past, we've dealt with MDOT on their train tracks, and they're gonna be a pistol, they're gonna put a gun to your head, and they're gonna pick your pockets.
And I guess.
This is the great train robbery. This is what this is.
How long had they been in communication with MDOT on this? I mean, right from the get-go, I'm gonna guess.
Okay.
So MDOT has dropped it on us way after the fact, which telling me that they move at that speed all the time anyway, because we wanted traffic modeling before and wasn't able to get it, had to do our own because of the pace at MDOT's pace.
Well,
It's.
doesn't make anybody happy, but we're there, we're building.
Well, we're there.
Let's,
And we got by the engineering costs, so,
I mean,
which I voted no on, which somebody else voted yes on.
I didn't.
So, so I think,
Call the question.
call the question.
I did.
Oh, yeah, Carl did. Yeah, go ahead, Kylie.
Oh, Lehman.
What's wrong? Okay, since my fellow board members seem so in favor of this, they feel it's important, I'm gonna vote yes.
Underwood,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Yeoman.
No, because I can. All right. Well, I'll tell you, they give it and they take it away. I mean, you look at the financial reports that you had sent out prior. I mean, we're up like 14% so far this year, on average, which is significant when we're talking in the millions, so. Which we needed, by the way, just to pay the wage increase, which is all good.
I would like to put one more statement on this thing here. Not that it's gonna make it any better, but I do believe in my mind eliminating that other drive and using this is gonna make it much safer for the entrance and exit. Not that I agree with, I think this is overpriced for what they get.
well, it's always overpriced, it's real work.
It is.
I have additional comment on soccer fields. Do you want me to wait for?
Well, yeah, come to the commissioners, because we can still discuss it that. Managers' comments.
I got a few of them today. First of all, I'd like to introduce you to Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
She is helping out Larry, and she's going to be, when Larry cannot be here, she's going to be taking the meeting recordings and all.
So she's Larry too.
We have completed meetings with the 9 townships that were interested. We still have 4 townships that are not interested in meeting with us, which is fine.
Okay.
But we had very good feedback. Anywhere from, some of the smaller townships that we thought weren't going to be as anxious to get involved, all the way out to, some of the bigger townships that would like to do even more. And they just, would like to try and talk about different scope of projects. Acme Township has got a lot of gravel roads and they want to invest a lot in their gravel roads. They also have the issue with the horse event that goes on there and trying to deal with that. So they have a lot of things that they're interested in. So overall, good feedback from them. Larry's going to have out their individual use applications here in another week, and they'll be able to start evaluating their own system. And then if they decide that they want to get involved more, we're ready to take on that with our new engineer. So we're very pleased with the way it turned out. Next thing, Long Lake Township. They have come in to us and they talked to us a little bit about 2 items today. And one of them is with the fire barn. They are getting ready to pave that section. And we talked to them originally and we agreed that we would go 25%. And coincidentally enough, with their new increase in cost, the 25% ends up being 1 year of their annual assessment that we've been talking about for cost shares. They are asking though, because the price is higher and they have some other concerns with it, they are asking if we would be willing to put in any additional money for the $22,000 of additional costs. So it doesn't necessarily have to be decided today, but it's just something to think about because it is up about 22,000 over what the original.
Our costs are higher too.
And that's, I mean, that is something they understand, they have a plan now that they've worked out with Wing to get the drainage proper out of there. and everything is set to be paid, but it is gonna be 22,000. And they were wondering if we might be.
Did they want us to take it from the following year, or they just want some extra allocation?
They're asking for an extra allocation.
Okay.
22 or?
Half, at least, is what they were saying, at least half they'd like to split it with us, so 11,000. But because they have major plans for every year's allocation already. I mean, they are working actively with getting some roads rebuilt within their town.
I think before we said we would do up to 2 years of allocation. Or not.
But they don't want us to use.
They don't want to get.
They're asking more above and beyond the allocation.
And we were at 25%?
That 44,000 that we give them is 25%, it's like 176.
Were we financing that?
We were just going to.
Are we gonna give them? We were considered.
If they needed help, we would carry that, but that would be, they would pay all of that back. Is what
I
that
think we
was.
had some discussion about going up to 50% of the cost too.
They recall that we would potentially, but it is something.
And
that the
it got left like, okay, let's just throw them let's just see if the standard policy fits. And if you guys have driven that,
I haven't been out there.
Oh, it's very busy out there, very congested. Without doing this, it would be very dangerous. I don't drive it often, but I have enough.
But it's not gonna stop them from doing it. They've got the fire burn built. I mean,
Right. Well, here's my take, at least, and not that we can approve it or disapprove it next meeting or whatever, but if we were at 25% on the other, why wouldn't we be 25% on the overage? We're participating at the same rate.
Well, that's just it. That's with the overage, we're at 25%.
Oh, with the overage.
With the overage, we're right at 25%. So
that was included in that.
No, it wasn't originally. They weren't gonna use, they were gonna use.
But right now, it would be.
It would make it to 25.
At the 25.
And what they were originally counting on using 1 year's of allocation. And then it would be over 25% by using that 1 year of allocation. But now, because of the overage, it drops it to 25%, almost exactly. It's within like $400.
I'm curious, what's the recommendation of staff?
I'll let Wayne answer that. How's that? Because he's been dealing with the redesign and the design and doing everything that needs to happen to make the drainage flow.
So their proposal is we find acceptable. It attains a 2% cross slope that their plans indicated that is supposed to happen. Doesn't require them to start to rip out curb and have to re-pour curb. The entire road will be overlaid for this length in order to do this and in order to make the appropriate cross slopes. Our desire that when we get through with this process is that their consultant will maybe reevaluate their processes and procedures and obtain a full review of their plans with the road commission and approval from the road commission and be permitted by the road commission prior to them going out to bid. With the cart before the horse, it creates issues when we see issues that we find unacceptable, and then they have to redesign and then start to make a lot of additional changes.
So our best bet right now is to wait until they have a design in front of us.
We've worked with them on there, and we have an agreement with them and their design, and that we find acceptable now with as of our meeting earlier.
He was saying that perhaps what we're going to get out of this is their consultant won't let this happen to us again. Or to them again, their customers.
Correct. Yes, that the next time that they have a project that requires requires a permit from us, that they not only come to us with, in a conceptual meeting form, but then actually develop their plans and have those plans reviewed by us before they go out to bid, which unfortunately they did.
It went the other way around.
We're having this discussion now. It's gonna be fresh in our minds. Does anybody want to make a motion on this?
If we're gonna do this for one township.
All right, that's
we're
right.
ready to do this for all townships.
I don't mind borrowing ahead.
So
We
authorize.
had done that in the past, we had done that with Five Lake Township.
We, Five Lake, that was a little different. That was before the cost allocations.
Correct.
We allowed them to reimburse us back for 2 years.
Right.
So if we do this, we would specifically say they're borrowing ahead. I mean.
They would take, you're saying then what you're suggesting is they would take it out of next year's allocation.
If they choose.
Because I just recall we were gonna cover 25%, and then we offered to help them finance whatever was left.
Up to 50%.
Up to whatever that percentage was. So we're still short. Or they're still short.
But
they
you're
were-
at
but we can finance
25%
it.
with what their allocation is, they are at 25%. If you have a couple of options, the way I see it, you can say, okay, let's allow them to take from next year's allocation and do it. Or we say, okay, we'll let you do it, but you're gonna pay us, we make an agreement that they're gonna pay us back over the course of 4 or 5 years.
Either one.
Or they just do it on their own because they can't work with either of them.
Well, maybe we need to present it to them and let them pick the option.
If you give us the authority to allocate more funds, we will work out the details for it, and we will come back to you in June with a solution that works.
Bring it back to us for final approval.
I just don't want to set a precedent where we're just gonna start giving extra money.
I like the fact that we want to encourage things like this and to let them use the following year's allocation. Because we're talking about, we've already agreed to let them hold allocations.
Right.
Till they get enough to equal a project. So now in
We're
this
just going the
particular
other way.
case, we're going a little bit the other way.
Yeah.
We're not bending any policy or doing anything.
We're just spinning ahead a little bit, and the next year, they're not gonna have that allocation.
It depends on their allowance.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Okay, we'll bring 2 options back to you if that's what they decide either way. Okay, that works for us. Secondly, and this is another thing they did a road safety assessment. And so they have come back to us, and not that this is something right now that you guys have to be worried about. We're working with them in policy wise to change up some of the stuff at the intersection of Straight and Long Lake, and then East Long Lake and North Long Lake. And so they are looking, because they have until the 22nd, they have a moratorium on anything happening out there, but after that, they've got a Dollar General that wants to go in, the Fresh Market wants to move, they want to add and be like a 20,000 square foot building. They have all these plans for people out there. So what they want to do is just present to us and have us help work with them. This does not come at this point with any financial things, but I want you to be aware, they are looking at potentially realigning Straight Road to line up with East Long Lake Road by going through the trailer park. I don't know if y'all know where the trailer park is there. So they've talked to the trailer park people already, and they have talked to them, and they are willing to basically sell them that strip of land that would become right of way in exchange for being able to add additional on their property. Because right now they were restricted as to how far they could go.
They're being ambitious, little commercial corridor in there.
Yeah, and so they, you know, and Ron is very anxious to get moving forward on roads and looking farther ahead because of the growth that they're expecting in their township. So this is a big thing. We're working with them, just so you know that they're going to be talking to us, and we may have some things come back as part of this final assessment as to what they're going to want to be partnering in with us to do some changes and make sure that.
If they align that, there's gonna be a light there. I mean.
Or, yeah, or
it's gonna be
something.
Or something, yeah. What about?
Well, whatever it is.
The signals don't go out on roundabouts.
Yeah, they don't. True, that's true. There is a, this is your This is your time, go ahead.
Okay.
I know you something to comment about that. They have some anti-growth people out there that want to use the road commission and the township as the reason that they're not gonna allow this Dollar General and some other people who've already bought the property and want them to approve this thing.
Okay.
They wanna,
I would assume that they had the zoning in place.
zoning's in place for them to do what they want, and they've come up with this moratorium.
I see.
Yeah, if they have use by right, then they have use by right. I mean, that's. kind of
Well, and that's just it. It's basically then how do you set access
Right.
to these places?
Right.
And how do you deal with the future growth of that strip, which is going to be substantial? I mean, they have a
Right.
lot of land there that's being sold every day. So.
Right. That's interesting.
All right, so we talked about the access gate on Bluff. We are looking at two other contractors. Affordable Fence was not able to get the gate, so we are looking at two other contractors that manufacture their own stuff to go. So we will be working with one of the two of them, whoever decides to do it.
Make it happen.
Yes, and we're gonna get that moving. We also, last week, Friday, John DeMoose, the candidate for Senate, came in to talk to us about roads, and we had a good conversation. He would like to use us kind of as a feedback board to what is really happening in the road commissions, because he doesn't necessarily have anybody else that has the experience and the workload that we have. So he is going to be interested in talking to us, and we also mentioned the fact that we're going to need some money soon. His guy that was with him was actually out of Bergman's office. So Bergman knows about it now too. So that was a good meeting though. Kind of brought him up to speed on some of the issues that are affecting us in the negative light. So it was a good productive thing. And the last thing is, some of our people on the crew had asked if we might be interested in allowing them or allowing us to assist Otsego County for the tornado damage, if they decide they need some help. And that's something that I can't authorize them to take.
I think we had put that out.
We did ask Midland.
We did
Down in Midland
up at the UP
and up in
too.
the UP too, so I think we kind of set that out there.
The tone's been set, and we help where we need. I don't think they're gonna need a lot of road help.
No.
And the reason I say so, I drove through there the other day, and there are a couple of spots that are particularly bad, but I don't, as far as the roads go.
Yeah,
I don't think really.
they still have, from what I understand, we as our crew had two members give $200, $100 a piece to send them donuts, because they were working for the whole weekend and they were very pleased with it. So they have, some people from our crew have stepped up, but we wanted to know if it was okay to make contact with them and see. I don't think they're gonna need it, but if they do, then we have some equipment that they might be able to use, then that might be beneficial for them.
Okay.
All right, and that is all for my comments.
All righty, and that brings us to the commissioners. Alan, you want to start?
No, I have too long a list. Let Joe start.
Joe.
I just have one, and I kind of mentioned it to you before. I kind of want to know what our right of way is along Keystone Road and that soccer field. We go to MDOT's property as far as our right of way.
The railroad has 100-foot right of way, 50 foot in the center of the rails, either side. So our right of way would actually sort of already overlap. So
because
from center to Keystone.
I would like some options as far as guard railing, building a berm, fencing on our edge to stop those people from doing what they've been doing on the weekends.
Of parking.
Parking there, because they just ignore the no parking signs. So while we got it ripped up, is a good time to take a look at this.
So we've had several different conversations with our local MDOT railway person. Can't think of his name off the top of my head. They are going through and getting approvals, and MDOT is going to be fencing that entire stretch down through there on between Keystone and the railroad so as to prevent that. And they're going to be erecting no trespassing signs up and down through there as well.
That will be the expense.
Yeah, let's entertain, yes.
But where are they gonna put that?
Yeah. I think I have it on
That'd be the
the
next question. How close to our,
west side.
They'll put that on their right of way.
at their 50 foot?
Says we overlap though, so that'll.
Yeah, that's my question.
But it's theirs effectively, just because we overlap doesn't mean they can go out to the edge.
I would have to look at that. I couldn't tell you that off the top of my head.
Okay.
Of exactly how much
I think-
that's there.
I think that it would behoove us to get costs on permanent no parking signs versus the temporary ones they do. And work with law enforcement to make that an actual enforceable area of no parking.
Yes, and that's where that kind of came about. We were having conversations with MSP on doing something of that nature. And we got MDOT involved, the local railway representative. And they're doing that. And my understanding is that they're gonna be having permanent signs that are out there that are gonna be of permanent nature on actual metal posts and.
Because that's, somebody's gonna get killed.
That's at MDOT's expense?
At MDOT's expense, correct.
So we might got our rail crossing back. Thank you. Keep me apprised, because while it's ripped up, is an excellent time to put in the new barriers. Because then when it opens back up again, they won't have options. I just want to make sure they're not going to park this way. Anything else? No, that's it. That's my problem.
My turn?
Your turn.
All right, this will be quick. The cost sharing thing, you said you talked to the townships and at our MTA meeting, there was one township that was not happy with the new cost sharing. And so that's the one, Whitewater. And I said I'd bring it up at the meeting, I'm not quite exactly sure, how they thought that they wouldn't be getting the same deal or a better deal.
They were one of 4 townships that had no interest in coming in to our meetings.
Okay.
And that was through contacting Ron. But we did talk to another person on their board, and she is going to be bringing it up at their board meeting to have people sidestep Ron and come in.
Okay.
And see us and talk to us.
Okay, perfect.
So
I said I'd bring it up, so apparently there'll be more dialogue.
Yes,
That's fine.
and what he's talking about is so that they come in and actually learn what we're really
What it's doing,
proposing.
then that's fine.
Because right now.
Because that's not how it was really described.
Right, because right now, Ron has not told them anything at all about the meeting we had down at Networks Northwest.
Okay.
So they have no idea what's happening.
Okay, perfect. That's good.
But we are working.
Perfect. And then I did mention to you prior to meeting about the light at Barlow and South Airport, and those issues have been addressed, so that's good. But then I would like us to do a little more research on this article that was brought to our attention on that subdivision. I'd like to know exactly what that says. So I don't know how we get our hands on that unless we already have it, which we may.
We might already have that in our information. It's something that Steve would have dug up in his research out there.
I'd like to know exactly what that says.
Okay,
I would like to
so
know
I can,
exactly what that says.
we can look into that, and would you like us, as soon as we get it, to email it to you in a
That'd be
PDF
perfect.
form?
Yeah.
PDF.
That, I can do Word.
I can do
But that would be, that, I would appreciate that. I'd really like to know what that says. Because that could change the dynamics of what.
And just, I don't know, is there a prevailing, what's the Robert's rules? If it fails, the prevailing side, somebody on the prevailing side can bring the question again. And, is it a fail? Is the prevailing side, if it's a tie? I would think because it doesn't pass, you could. And you'd be the one that have to bring it back up if that were something you wanted to do.
Well, I'd like to know what that says.
Okay.
These people were pretty adamant that it says you can't do that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd like to know.
I'm just,
That's, yeah.
to be prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm done.
Excellent.
If something doesn't happen more positive, I think we'll be litigating with them. The circuit court judge can decide.
Well, but
And
there
maybe
is-
that's okay.
But there is no right, they have no right to access because it is not a road. And it is not our fault that they have a landlocked parcel. We did not develop the landlocked parcel. So, but
I've had some people call me about it was funny tonight about maintaining dirt roads. I have a large piece of property on a dirt road that I've done nothing with but needs maintaining, and I always thought if the county didn't maintain it, the road commission did, we always could. And I've had somebody on South Long Rogers Road behind, which is sort of west and south of Southwest Long Lake Road. They want to know if we can give them a quote to sprinkle they want to do some upgrading, but they don't want to upgrade it to. Can we have a gravel
Yes.
truck deliver gravel down there and we'll bill them and they'll grade it out or whatever?
We can do
County road or private?
It's a non-maintained county
We can do
road.
it.
Seasonal.
Seasonal road.
Seasonal road, yeah.
We have a policy for that?
If it's private road, we'd have a contract.
No, this is, no, they do it themselves. He said, the neighbors and I will all throw in $200, we'll have $2,000. We don't really want to live on
An improved road.
an improved road. That's not the issue. We just want to improve our
A drivable
seasonal
road.
road. We want to make it so we can get in and out.
Drivable.
We've done
any
that.
of those we can do, we can take care of. And if they want it done cheaply, when we're in the area ditching, we can use ditching material. And it's a lot cheaper for them to get it done that.
I will get his contact stuff and I'll tell him that you're the guy and or however.
You're the guy.
Send it to me.
Okay,
I'll
okay.
take care of it.
And then the second thing was, unfortunately, I was through one of our work zones today. And because I have had a fair amount of experience setting up the work zone, I really think our guys need some training. It was unsafe and it could be some collisions. They had a big work zone on Euchre Hill. They have the area they're at the top of the hill and the bottom of the hill and a little further back. It's a big stretch in there. It's a mile or so, and you can see it all, but you can't see the guys at the top of the hill. But where the flagger is, they're to be directed into a lane. Well, we don't have any cones or anything up or any directions or any channeling devices for about 2,000 feet to right where the guys are working. So people are going back and forth in both lanes and the flagger is not properly directing them into a lane and they're not marked. It's really dangerous. And it's at both ends the same way. And it was real, and there is an intermediate side street there that goes into Florey's Ranch, which is a fairly subdivision with quite a few homes in them. And there was no flagger at that. Had they had a contained smaller work zone on either side of that, they wouldn't need some. But when you have a kind of a busy side road, we need another guy. It was almost the warning flags and the sequencing of the flags before the flaggers were pretty good. But from then on, it was chaos because the people were driving and weaving into both lanes. And one guy decided to do this, and the other guy got into that lane, and then he got up by where the actual work zone is. And then the person in front who's in the wrong lane cuts in front of the car that's in the other lane. I had to bring it up.
That's okay.
It's important.
Yes.
And I don't think we have any deviation from the
No, they
traffic control.
Heather is working with the safety committee. She'll make sure it goes
Okay.
squared away.
And I think the idea would be you can have your signs up and everything, and I think our work zones could be much smaller And then you don't have to set up a mile of cones.
I will talk,
You,
she will
please,
say- she
please,
will definitely
please
make
review it. It
contact.
was not good.
The only thing I could think of as far as on Euchre Road, because it does have quite a rise on both sides of where you're talking about. They probably figured line of sight, and everything, they want somebody coming up 75, because people drive fast on Euchre Road. I mean, that's a fast road.
Yeah, it is.
So when somebody comes over that hill, oh, where's the sight? So, yeah.
Okay, so I had that, and that's all.
All right. We were, so just the one issue that we have out in Whitewater Township, that I think we've even had that discussion before, or by Vinton at old M72 or something, that floodplain.
Yes.
Okay. And have we talked to the people? Do they understand that now? Is it
No,
resolved?
no, they think the water flowing through there is our fault. They built in a floodplain. And the nature of it, we had our folks out there, the culvert going under old M1 and old M72.
Okay. Okay.
By Vinton
Outside
Road.
M72.
So what happens is, if the water's flowing through there and there's a culvert. Well, the culvert was never over half full. Yes, there's a few branches in that because we had a pretty good rain.
But it's
Culvert
flowing
was still
sufficiently.
flowing.
Yeah.
The problem is there's so much water coming down there that it's spreading out and going to their house. Well, you built your house at the bottom of a floodplain and didn't go up 6 blocks higher than it is. And so it's at the low point of a floodplain. Water.
And they just don't have
flows
enough
in.
of a swale around them or something.
They have no way to deal with it.
Yeah.
So our guys went out again and cleaned it completely, and the water is exactly where it was before we cleaned. It's just
Well-
naturally flowing water, and the culvert is not overwhelmed. It's easily handling the water coming through it.
Other than that, the June, just, I still want you guys to think about bring an item or items of concern. We're gonna start at 2 o'clock that day before our meeting. And, you know, things like, for example, how we want to interact with the manager, or in the event that, you know, your plate is overloaded, you know, what things like, and I think I mentioned to Joe earlier, you know, if mentioning something to one of the supervisors or something, if that's appropriate, if we could think about those kind of things and just kind of get how we interact with everybody here. I want to, and then anything else, you know, for me, that's kind of my thing. But for anything else, we want to have good communications, and we want to be able to be accessible then also to the people here, and you know, because the public, they're all over us right now. I mean, it's, you know, there's always something going on now. It seems more in the last couple of years, but in any event, just so think about what you want to bring to that, and it's not like a normal meeting. I just kind of
Work session.
it's a work session. Yeah. So other than that, I don't have anything. That brings us to our second public comment. Oh, look.
We got one public.
No, we don't. We board most of them to tears.
So that brings us to item number 9, which is
Motion to adjourn.
we are adjourned.